On today's show, both the Thunder and Warriors get really nice shorthanded wins. The Celtics go into LA and smoke the Lakers. And we talk about every game from a wild Sunday in the NBA right here on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at Locked On Cavs. Swipa. He covers the Denver Nuggets over at Locked On Nuggets. And we want to say thank you to you for making this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen or watch on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. If you are watching right now, hit the thumbs up button for us and click that notification bell and make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening. And it's because of people like you that the Locked On Podcast Network is now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. And today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we had a loaded Sunday. Both our teams played. Both our teams lost, and that's where I want to start with today's show. I'm in Oklahoma City as we record this right now, where I watched the Thunder beat the Cavs 121-113. OKC started out this game on a 28-5 run over the first 7.5 minutes or so. The Cavs turned the basketball over on 10 of their first 17 possessions. Ultimately, Cleveland does fight back. They take a brief lead. They led for about 90 seconds in the third quarter of this game, but they couldn't finish the job as OKC gets a nice win, headed a nice fourth quarter. Very impressive game for the Thunder. No SGA, no Jalen Williams, no AJ Mitchell, no Alex Caruso, and a very nice win over a Cavs team that had won 7 straight games entering Sunday.
Yep, that was an interesting game to watch, and especially watching the amount of threes that the OKC Thunder were absolutely torching the Cleveland Cavaliers with. And I want to start here because oftentimes when you talk about games, especially on Locked On NBA, there's so many games we want to get to make sure that everybody gets their team represented. We don't get to talk about some of the players that do a lot of the in-between work, the players that do a lot of the dirty work, the ones that really make teams what they are. And in particular, today, the story was Isaiah Hartenstein. The story was Lou Dort. The story was the fact that Isaiah Joe was able to come off the bench, or start in this game rather, and deliver some truly huge shots and hit 6 threes in this game. Cason Wallace, who is continuing to improve as an offensive player, drops another 20 ball today. But the story, the thing that, Danny, I really noticed throughout this game, but also when we got into the fourth quarter, bro, Isaiah Hartenstein is an absolute manimal. He was a plus 23 today, and when I tell you that the box score doesn't do him justice, he had 13, 7, and 4, but it was the fact that he was timely. He was everywhere he needed to be. His defense was excellent today. He bodied Jared Allen. He bodied Evan Mobley. He simply did not allow for them to see the light of day, at least made it as difficult as possible, even though Evan Mobley ended up with 15 points and Jarrett with 11. Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, they took it to the Cleveland Cavaliers front line. And Danny, some of the things that you and I talked about with this Cleveland team and just some of the things we're concerned with, I think that definitely reared its ugly head today. And I think Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren were a big reason why they were able to pull away with the victory today.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you brought up the box score, and I think you could make the case that Isaiah had the least impressive box score of those 4 bigs that you talked about, but I thought he played the best game of them. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that Chet went out there and had 17 and 15, but he was 5 of 14 from the floor. I wasn't super impressed with what he did offensively. I thought Isaiah Hartenstein was the better big man for the Thunder in this game. He was, I thought, better defensively, and I know that Chet had a few blocks. 2 of them came on one possession when Naquan Tomlin tried to dunk on him in back-to-back sequences in the same possession. But I was very impressed. And if you watch games and you look at box scores, you know this, the plus-minus number does not always do justice to how somebody played. Oftentimes that's a number that you can kind of be, it's like a victim of circumstance type thing. Like maybe you're playing in a lineup that doesn't work and it's not necessarily that player's fault that they're a plus or a minus. Hartenstein felt like a plus 23 watching this game. And a lot of his minutes were matched up with Jarrett Allen, and Jarrett Allen felt like a minus 15. Like Allen was 4 of 6 from the floor. He had a double-double. If you look at his box score, like he didn't play bad. I'm not so sure. That's not what my eyes saw. I think that if you're comparing the bigs, OKC's bigs were so much better in this game, but you would think, okay, well, Chet was awesome. Chet was good. I thought Hartenstein was the best one, man. I thought he was so good in this game. Thought he was a big reason why OKC won this game. Obviously, you mentioned the three-point shooting. OKC hit 21 of 41 from beyond the arc in this game, in a game where they were missing a lot of their creation. And really what they did, they thrived on points off turnovers. They had 31 points off of 17 Cavs turnovers. They got second chance points. They had 17 second chance points, including 9 in the fourth quarter that really swung this game. And they also had 17 points in fast break. Like the Cavs lost this game when you wouldn't think this, but like the Cavs were the better half court team. It's when OKC was able to force turnovers and get out into transition. That's when they had success offensively. They did not play well offensively in the half court, but they created so many opportunities that they didn't really need to.
So when you watched this game, how did you feel about the way that James Harden and Donovan Mitchell played today? Now, I think if you look at the regular numbers, now this is like the inverse of the box score stuff. I think by Isaiah Hartenstein, I think it told a really good story today about, look, sometimes the numbers don't actually tell you how good a player is. He was better than the box score. James Harden today had 20 points. He had 9 assists. He had 5 turnovers. And it did not feel like, honestly, him or Donovan Mitchell had particularly good games today, even though they both were able to score 20.
So I agree with you on Harden. I disagree with Donovan. And Donovan has historically really struggled against Lou Dort, right? Like we've seen him have some bad games, particularly early this year. And then in both games the Cavs and Thunder played last year, I thought that he was actually really good offensively. He just missed threes, and he missed a few threes that are three-pointers you expect Donovan Mitchell to make. He was 0 of 6 from beyond the arc. He was 9 of 13 on twos. So like I look at that and kind of say, you know what, he didn't have a great box score. I mean, he had, 27 and 5. Like it's not like he had a bad game. But to me, it was just he missed some threes, some good looks that he normally does make. And I think that that's kind of the difference between him having 20 versus having 29 in the Cavs win, is whether or not he made threes. I do agree with you on Harden. The 5 turnovers, 3 of which came in the first half. Now, I thought Harden had a solid second half. Like he only had 2 turnovers. I think he had 11 points and 4 of 6 shooting in the second half. Thought he was better down the stretch, but he was bad at the start. And that's really where this game was won. Like the Cavs couldn't, with it being for them, their third game in 4 days, and that third game being a noon start is a tough break in the schedule. Yeah. And I think when you have to expend so much energy to get back into a game, it becomes really difficult to hang on.
Yeah. When you get down, you said, what was it? You said 28-5. Was that the number?
28-5 with 4.5 minutes left in the first quarter.
Yeah. When you get down that much. Now, to be fair, y'all did that last year when you were playing Boston. And
this game felt exactly like that, except the Cavs at that point were not playing their third game in 4 nights and felt like they had a little more juice at the end of the game than they did in this one on Sunday.
Yeah, didn't Darius Garland go like pretty crazy like down the stretch of that game? Like in
he closed the game out, but Donovan had like 40 in it. Donovan was awesome in that game. And Darius hit the dagger jumper. I think it was on a left wing. Yeah. Like he closed it out, but Donovan was the best player on the floor that night. Yeah,
I think, look, when you get in these situations and, OKC, especially, you were at the game, Danny, and so I know the audience would love to hear your experience. But, when OKC goes in that run, that crowd gets rowdy. And they truly are the backbone of that team. And, it doesn't get talked about a lot because, OKC, we talk about their depth. We talk about SGA. We talk about J-Dub and Chad. And, I mean, honestly, we talk about the front office and how great it is and Mark. But one of the biggest reasons why OKC is what it is, they get so much energy from their crowd. And that crowd is what takes them to the next level. And when they start turning you over and they start going on runs, it feels like you're about to run into an avalanche. And, thankfully, obviously, Cleveland was able to get back into the game. And honestly, there were points where I thought that Cleveland was going to be able to get the win. But they just couldn't get the stops. Like it just would be a case and jump shot. Chet would get a drive to the rim. That Chet I-Hart 2-man play where I-Hart drove baseline, found Chet, and it was a dunk, or maybe another way. Like that kind of stuff. Like they just kept making plays. And again, this is why OKC is so good. They just have so many guys. They play so connected, and honestly, every game matters to them.
It absolutely does. And the crowd was awesome. I will say this was for me. And I've been to, I think, 17 different arenas in the past couple of years. covering NBA games. And this was the coolest experience I've had. So because this was a nationally televised game, like there was no local broadcast. The Thunder broadcast team didn't have the game. The Cavs broadcast team didn't have the game. So that meant that I got to sit at the scorer's table. So like I sat basically right on the floor watching this game. I got to hear so much. I got to see so many things, just like these little intricacies that when you're sitting in the stands or watching on TV or, in a normal media seat that you don't get. And like, it was a really, really cool experience to see how guys interact with officials, how guys communicate with each other when they're calling out defensive coverages. Like that was a really, really cool thing. But you're right about that environment. Like it felt like a playoff game, even though 4 of Oklahoma City's most important players, not like the top 4 most important players, but 4 very good players for them were not playing. Like that crowd still brought it. And I came away very impressed, man.
Yeah. Shout out OKC, man. Shout out to Cleveland too. Again, like this is all early for me with Cleveland. Like they're just getting James Harden. Evan Mobley is back in the lineup. Like all of this stuff for me, it's just the next month and a half for Cleveland. It's just about experimentation, getting used to playing with each other. And then when you go into the NBA playoffs, you're healthy. Sam Merrill, you got your rhythm going again. I think that team's going to be loaded by the time they get to the offs.
I do too. And they have a big game coming up on Tuesdays. They take on the New York Knicks. That'll be one that a lot of eyes are on across the association. But another team that had a bit of a tough break from the NBA schedule makers, the Denver Nuggets. They fell to a shorthanded Warriors team. We'll talk about that. Plus the Boston Celtics rolling over the Los Angeles Lakers on Sunday night, right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections in. Your picks are right, you can cash in. You can choose between basketball, baseball, hockey. There's a great hockey game on Sunday. Not someone that watches a lot of hockey, but I watched that one. Soccer, UFC, and so much more. Plus, they've got features like early payouts and flex play, so that you've got options while the games are still happening. Download the app. You'll be surprised how easy and simple it is to get started. Just going to take a couple minutes for you to build your first lineup. Make NBA lineups around players you already know, or maybe some that you're just learning if your team might have made a trade at the deadline earlier this month. Pick more or less on points, assists, rebounds, whatever you want. It'll make every possession way more fun to watch. So download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA, that is LOCKEDON NBA, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Thank you to those of you that make Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every single day. And if that's you, you might want to check out the Locked On NBA Everydayer Club. You can get ad-free versions of this episode and hang out in a Discord chat exclusively for everydayers out there. And out west, the Golden State Warriors got a 128-117 win over the Denver Nuggets. This one was the Warriors got off to a really great start. They outscored Denver 39-27. Denver really turned it on offensively in the second quarter, had a great third quarter, and then fell apart in the fourth. They were outscored 33-16 down the stretch of this one. What'd you see here? Why did Denver lose this game?
Look, I want to say in the first quarter, it wasn't great. So what happened is Draymond was a game-time decision, and then this is the words of David Adelman. Adelman said that they were not aware that he was not going to end up playing, and so because of that, they went into the game with a base coverage that they were expecting, and so they were going to run their very typical, Jokic show and recover. But then what happened is that because there was no Draymond, the way that they ran their coverage, they just allowed for Al Horford in the first quarter to just do pick and pops. And obviously Jokic, a center, like most other centers, is not going to be able to close out on those well consistently. And so Jokic then gets late or doesn't get there. They're overhelping. And the Golden State Warriors were just bombing threes away in the first half. The Warriors had 15 three-pointers in the first half. And in the first quarter in particular, Al Horford had a great game. He had 17 points in the first half. He made 5 threes. And at that point, when you let a team just get going and they feel like they're having it their way, they're just going to start making nothing but jumpers, which is what they were doing. I mean, in this day, Santos, he made 2 threes. Al Horford was 6 of 7. DeAnthony Melton had 2 threes. Moses Moody made 4 threes. Gary Payton made 3. Podziemski made 3. So it was just, they started off terrible. But then in the second quarter, the David Adelman, who, if you can watch my video on the Swipa channel, you can hear my very open criticism today. They made the adjustment, Danny. They started playing more switch, and they started pre-rotating. So when you pre-rotate, audience, you show or on a hedge or a trap, but then what happens is instead of just allowing for the 5 or the 4, whoever's setting the screen to pop, you then send an additional defender from the wing to the man up top, and then you just rotate underneath it. Just pre-rotation. The Nuggets have done this versus the Cavaliers at times. They did this versus Boston in 2024 when Boston was running the historic offense they had. They did it this year to the Atlanta Hawks for Kristaps Porzingis to slow him down. So they've done this, Danny. So why didn't they do that to open the game? Especially when the team's missing Jimmy Butler, obviously, Steph Curry, Kristaps Porzingis isn't there, and Draymond's in. They're missing their best players. And yet you still are getting obliterated on the perimeter. So then what happens is Jokic then says, all right, well, I guess we need me to do my thing. Jokic today, y'all, had 35 points, 20 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. This is his 12th 30-20-10 game in his career. 12th, second this year, in this season. And they lost. Jokic left. He left the third quarter, Danny. I want to say he had like 32, 19, and 11. Yeah, 32, 19, 11, and they had a 6-point lead. And then what happens is David Adelman runs Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, Spencer Jones, and Jonas Valanciunas. The Warriors go on a 6-0 run. The Nuggets score a little bit, but then they bring Jokic and Murray back to the scorer's table with about 7 minutes left. But because of the back and forth, they don't get back in the game until the lead is tied at 5:59. And by that point, the Warriors had already gotten so much momentum. Brandon Podziemski was trash all game. And then in the fourth quarter, had 14 points, started making crazy jumpers and crazy shots over Jamal Murray, a runner from 18 feet away, a baseline jumper over Jokic. It just, honestly, this was one of the worst coaching performances that David Adelman has had. And what it feels like, Nanny, they're 14-15 in the clutch. This has historically been the best clutch team in the NBA. And now they don't seem to have any identity. They seem to be all over the place. The turnover from Christian Brown, turnover from Jamal. Jokic tries to do an entry pass to Julian, seems to go off of a defender's foot. Like, just several things that shouldn't be happening. And then on top of that, their defense isn't set, and the game plan to start the game is horrible. So shout out to the Warriors. This is, for many Warriors fans, the best win of the year, given the circumstances. But I think for Denver, you're trying to get yourself solidified in the third spot, maybe get into the second spot, and you lose to a team missing its best players. It was an inexcusable game on behalf of Denver.
How much do you look at it as the rest issue? Because the Cavs were with the same thing. They played Thursday, they played Friday, and then they had an early tip on Sunday, where that is somebody had told to me it's basically like playing 3 straight days where you don't have that 2 full days off, or between tip times when you play at 7 local time on Friday and then play at noon or whatever local time they play it at in Golden State on Sunday. How much do you think that factored into it? Because like here in OKC, I do think that was part of it for the Cavs.
Yeah, it definitely could be a part of the story, but the thing is, it's like playing defense isn't really about like that. At least what they were doing wasn't really effort. Maybe they were just disconnected. But Danny, like I said, they shouldn't have lost to Cleveland. They shouldn't have lost to Detroit. They shouldn't have lost to the Clippers. And now they shouldn't have lost to the Warriors. So for me, this is more, they're now showing signs of the team is getting healthier-ish. But in terms of actually forging an identity, they are more displaced now than they've been all year. Because I think there have been so many different people coming in and out of the lineup. And now it's like they're trying to reestablish a pecking order. Plus they're playing versus tougher teams. All of that's kind of had like a negative effect on what the team is actually doing on the court performative-wise. So honestly, this game could have been played tonight. It could have been played tomorrow. And there's a very high chance they still could have lost just because they just don't have their gel right now.
That's totally fair. I can absolutely see that. I mean, they still have time to figure it out. They have time to get healthy. I wouldn't bet against Denver being able to make a deep run into the playoffs and maybe get to the finals, but they do need to at some point start to figure things out in a way that they haven't quite yet. But moving on to the other game of the night, the Boston Celtics going to Los Angeles. They take down the Lakers 111-89. Peyton Pritchard and Jalen Brown both have great games. Pritchard off the bench plays 38 minutes, has 30 points. Jalen Brown, obviously in the starting lineup, has 32 points, a little bit inefficient, but he did get to the line. Also had 8 boards and 7 assists in this one. Let's hear from John Corrales with Locked On Celtics for more.
Celtics ride another brilliant Peyton Pritchard game off the bench to another easy win over the Lakers. I'm John Corrales of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Pritchard, 30 points, 8 assists, and he was the killer at the end. Just mid-range shots, those classic Peyton Pritchard, get into the lane, spin, turn, fire. It doesn't matter if it's over a bigger guy. He hits those shots pretty consistently. The Celtics were kind of struggling to begin the fourth quarter, but Pritchard came in, settled those guys down, hit 6 straight points, and the Celtics were able to kind of run away with it after the Lakers went cold again. I thought the defense was really good. Baylor Shireman is going to be your underrated player here. There's a reason why he was a plus 18 with only 5 points, because I thought his defense on Luka especially was really, really good. The Celtics just made Luka kind of play an ISO individual game, which I know he's been doing more of, but Luka just 3 assists, and that's how you win against the Lakers. If he's not spraying the ball, if he's not getting everyone else manipulating the defense, then he's not going to be leading anybody to a win. Celtics, it wasn't the most crisp game in the world, but Pritchard did the job. Jalen got to the line a ton. He had 32. Celtics get the win. So let's keep it rolling on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Swipa, I know that you know where I stand on this. This is a nice win for the Celtics, but I am out on the Lakers, man. I do not think that this Lakers team is a good basketball team. Like, they're going to make the playoffs. They've got a good record. They've been, I guess, the opposite of the Denver Nuggets, where they've been awesome in clutch time. But I do not think this is a team capable of winning a series in the NBA playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, they have a chance and opportunity. I just think in this game, Lakers fans will tell you they can just get out athlete, and that is a real problem for them. Plus, they don't have the necessary defenders you need to play players like maybe specifically Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard just gave them absolute nightmares tonight. He would not let them breathe. He honestly was just hitting jumper after jumper. Derek White was getting downhill and creating opportunity. Jalen Brown was only 10 of 28. But what happens is if you can just get Peyton Pritchard going 6 of 9 from 3, constantly extending out your defense, and then on the other end, to his point, if you guard Luka in a way, you just play switch and say, hey, beat me one-on-one, everything bogs down for the Lakers. He didn't have a great game. And then on top of that, they just don't have the athletes to cover for a lot of the issues they have defensively.
Well, I think what it comes down to me, because Luka's incredible. Austin Reeves is a great player. LeBron, at his age, is still doing incredible things. I think they have one of the worst collections of role players in the NBA. Like, I look up and down at the role players, and there are not guys that I look at Denver's roster and who their role players are. I look at, obviously, OKC, and maybe they're in a different class, right? I look at San Antonio and who their role players are. In the East, I look at Detroit's role players, Cleveland's role players. I don't think the Lakers have role players that would play on any of those teams. And I think that is where their biggest issue is, because they've got the star power. It's that the drop-off from whoever you want to say their third best player is, whether it's LeBron or Austin Reeves, to who their fourth best player is drastic. I think that might be the biggest drop-off of any team in the league. And I'm out on them as anything that resembles a contender this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to find out, obviously, man. But if Lakers fans, I know they were looking forward to getting this win. But look, I think JJ, obviously, this is another story that's for another time. JJ, I think, is making some mistakes coaching right now, too. That's kind of costing him a little bit as well. But ultimately, I think, like I said, today come down to they just don't have the personnel to defend a team like Boston.
That's absolutely correct. And up next, the LA Clippers almost win a game at the buzzer, but they don't. Plus, we will talk about the New York Knicks getting a victory over the Chicago Bulls and every other game that happened on Sunday right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. So here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered to win your shot at an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. Maybe one of the teams that we've already talked about is a team that you think is going to go to the finals this year. Oklahoma City, Denver, Cleveland, Boston. Maybe LA, I don't see it, but maybe you do. So what you can do is you can pick them to win the conference with a futures bet on FanDuel, and you will be locked in for your opportunity to win a trip to the NBA Finals for two. Futures this time of year are the best, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or just grab that conference title, adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch that you're going to watch. So visit FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com today to get started and use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by TurboTax. Taxes, well, we know that's not necessarily the most fun, but tax season doesn't have to take over your life. And this year, TurboTax making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. Well, with TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work to get you every deduction that you could possibly imagine. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver, and it gives you a real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it for you. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. All you got to do, file by February 28th. So take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local. That is TurboTax.com/local and book your appointment today. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. And thank you to those of you that make Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every single day as we cover every single game that happened on Sunday. And up next, we're going to go out to LA, where the Orlando Magic got a 111-109 win over the Clippers. Benedict Mathurin had an opportunity to win the game at the buzzer for LA. Kawhi Leonard was awesome, but ultimately the Magic get a win that I think they needed. We're going to head on out to Locked On Magic for more.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic eke out a 111-109 victory over the LA Clippers on the road on the second night of a back-to-back. And the story of this game is simply the story that has been the case for much of the last month, quarter of the season, quarter and a half of the season. And that is Desmond Bane has been everything the Orlando Magic have wanted and more. He scored 36 points in this game, including 11 in the fourth quarter, making all the big shots, matching Kawhi Leonard, who was in his full Kawhi glory in this game, matching Kawhi Leonard shot for shot down the stretch, making big plays for the Magic to allow them to get this win. And Desmond Bane's been doing this now for much of the last month. He's shooting, I believe, 50% from three since early January, certainly in the high 40s, if not that. He has been a godsend for a team that has been dealing with so many injuries and so much inconsistency. And now they have a player who is confident on the ball and someone that they can trust is going to be able to score, get downhill, get to the basket, surprisingly, and be able to hit threes at a high rate. This game was ugly. That's kind of how the Magic want it to be. They're starting to look a little bit more like themselves on defense. But at the end of the day, you got to make buckets in clutch time. And Bane delivered with some clutch buckets once again to help the Magic get a big win.
Desmond Bane was awesome in this game. Kawhi Leonard was awesome in this game. I do think the Magic needed a win like this. It's, I look at that roster and they're very talented, right? Like, I don't think that Paolo Banchero is necessarily the biggest impact on winning type of player, but you can't deny the talent. And I keep wondering, is there going to be a win like this one maybe that turns their season around? Maybe this is it. I'm not sure, but this was nonetheless a very nice win for them.
Yeah, it was a great win, and because Desmond Bane was hooping. Desmond Bane was 4-6 from three today, and when they were in need of a score, and it was 107-109, I believe was the score, Desmond Bane hit a really nice contested jumper to get them tied back into the game. He's just been, phenomenal for them as of late, and he's been really efficient. He's had a lot of really good moments this year, and he's kind of figuring out what he needs to do for this team, and he was 5 of 8 in the fourth quarter. They got 11 points from him of the 23 points that they scored. and they played just enough defense down the stretch. Now, Kawhi, to your point, as you said earlier, was going just wild. 37 points today, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Did have 3 turnovers, but 14 to 25 from the field, and he was 2 of 7 from the three-point line. So this team is like the Clippers. They're trying to figure out who they are now, because now they're starting Brook Lopez and they're starting Kobe Sanders and Chris Dunn, because obviously Darius Garland is still out with injuries. Derrick Jones Jr. didn't have a good night. He had a 22-point game just a couple of days ago. Now he was 3 of 12 today for just 6 points. And then Benedict Mathurin had 20 points off the bench with Jordan Miller as well. Now, I will say, Danny, I think the future is very bright for them. There is a world where Benny ends up being much better than a lot of people realize. He has the physical makeup for it, and he seems to want to be that kind of player. But I do love what I've seen from him so far since he's been a Clipper.
Yeah, he's been really good, and I am excited to see what that team looks like when Darius Garland gets back from that toe injury. But moving on, the New York Knicks got a 105-99 win over the Chicago Bulls as the Yershon Yabusele revenge game doesn't quite get across the finish line. Karl Anthony Towns had 28 points, 11 boards, and 3 steals in this game. A very good game from him on a night where Jalen Brunson wasn't necessarily great. But I think this was on the second night of a back-to-back after a great comeback win on Saturday night. On the road, I think this qualifies as a good win for the Knicks.
Absolutely. All you got to do is keep stacking wins and see if you can get up to that 2 seed, 3 seed, stay in that area and get ready for the playoffs, man. But really, really good game for them.
In a tank fest game, the Dallas Mavericks get a 134-130 win over the Indiana Pacers. Here is Tony East with more.
Locked On Pacers up and out of Gainbridge Fieldhouse after they lose to the Dallas Mavericks. 134-130. The Mavs beat the Pacers right here in this building. Really a continuing trend of horrible defense for the Pacers, who just gave up 109 in the last 3 quarters against the Wizards 2 nights ago, and then 134 today. So they're just bleeding points all over the place. They cannot keep anybody in front of them. The Mavs, Brendan Williams got to the rim all night. Chris Middleton got places all night. A lot of open threes for Dallas, who hit a high percentage of their 29 attempts. A lot of easy baskets, and the Pacers had to foul so much to so many guys to get to the basket. Pascal Siakam returned and scored 30 points. He was quite good. Andrew Nembhard had a 20-point double-double. The Pacers had good things happen, but with this level of defense, they're not going to win in a game with 2 teams certainly thinking about the inverse innings. The Pacers lose this one. We'll have much more on Siakam, the Pacers defense, Kobe Brown's career night, and more on Locked On Pacers.
You got anything from this Pacers game that you got to get off your chest, or should we move on to another game that involves some bad teams?
Yeah, Chris Middleton, please get bought out, brother, so you can play on a
he was good. Best game that he's played all season. Season high, he was fantastic for Dallas. But in in another game in which 2 teams necessarily not that great, the Brooklyn Nets fall to the Atlanta Hawks 115-104 in Atlanta. Here is Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks with more.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland, the host of the Locked On Hawks podcast, and the Hawks win on this Sunday afternoon by 11 points. If you didn't watch the game, however, that might seem normal to you. It was not normal at all. The Hawks were down by 11. Yes, down by 11 with 8 minutes left at home to the Brooklyn Nets. And from that point forward, they dominated the rest of the game. Now, there's something to be said for winning a game you're supposed to win, and the Hawks did win this game at the end by holding the Nets to 2 points in the last 8 minutes. Brooklyn missed 14 of their last 15 shots, plus they turned it over 5 times. So part of that was the Nets aren't very good. I will say Brooklyn was not tanking. They were playing their normal guys. Michael Porter Jr. was in the game down the stretch. They weren't pulling everybody, but it was the Hawks did turn it on defensively, played much better down the stretch. Dyson Daniels was unbelievable defensively down the stretch, and Jalen Johnson, after a slow 3.5 quarters or so, was awesome to finish this game out for the Hawks. In the end, a win is a win for the Hawks, but in the end also, looking back at this one, not the prettiest result in the world, and about as poor as they can possibly play while still winning a game, even against this Nets team on a Sunday. We'll get into a full breakdown of this game and more on Locked On Hawks.
Well, I think Brad said it best. A win is a win against a team that I know they didn't pull starters in this game, but a team in Brooklyn that's not exactly trying to win basketball games right now.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Brooklyn. Get that draft lottery up.
They need it, especially because they do not control their pick next year. They need to get some lottery luck this year. But moving on, the Toronto Raptors get a 122-94 win in Milwaukee over the Bucks. Milwaukee was playing good basketball. I think they had a bit of a soft schedule recently. Certainly a disappointing effort. And here is Camille Davis from Locked On Bucks with more.
The vibes have been vibing for the Milwaukee Bucks. They had won 6 of their last 7 games prior to today's clash against the Toronto Raptors. And then the Raptors came into Fiserv form, and they just stumped their feet all over the Bucks couch. Blew the Bucks out by 28 points. I'm Camille Davis with the Locked On Bucks podcast, and some familiar things plagued the Bucks in this loss that we have seen in prior losses. Ball movement, it stopped on the offensive side of things. Too much ISO ball from the Bucks. In addition to that, did not take care of the ball well enough. The Bucks had more turnovers in this game than they had assists. That's crazy work. It's hard to win a game that way, especially when the Toronto Raptors, a team that normally takes like 33 threes a game, take 46 threes, most of them open, because the defensive effort wasn't consistent enough or good enough in this game. The Bucks got to tighten up. The schedule doesn't get any easier, and they need every win they can get on this play-in chase.
Shout out to Jamal Shed for Toronto, who he had a really nice game, was a plus 26 in 23 minutes, had 12, 6, and 6 coming off the bench for the Raptors.
Yep. Shout out to the Raptors, really good win. And obviously doing this too without Scotty Barnes as well. Like, it's a good win.
Yeah, very good win against a Milwaukee team that, again, I don't believe in, but had been playing better. The Charlotte Hornets continue their strong play with a 129-112 win over the Washington Wizards after going 2 of 10 from beyond the arc against the Cavs on Friday. LaMelo Ball knocks down a, I believe, franchise record 10 3-pointers on his way to 37 points in this game. Con Knippel had 28 points on 10 of 18 shooting. And the Charlotte Hornets continue to inch their way up the standings as they get closer and closer to that 500 mark on the season.
Man, the Hornets, man, they might be a real story in the playoff this year, and I can't wait to see it if it happens.
They're a good team. I watched them in person on Friday. We talked about it on Friday's show. They are a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, Philadelphia gets a 135-108 win in Minnesota. Rudy Gobert suspended for the Wolves. Certainly not something that hurt the Sixers' case in this game. Let's hear from Locked On Sixers for more.
Best part of the Sixers' 135-108 victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves on Sunday night, it wasn't just the fact that they snapped their 4-game losing streak. It was the fact that Tyrese Maxey looked at the Sixers' third quarter collapses they had this year and said, not tonight. Not happening tonight. And Tyrese Maxey basically willed the Sixers to winning that third quarter, 26-20, scoring 13 points, scoring half of his team's points in that third quarter on his way to a 39-point night. And the exclamation point of it all came at the 7:30 mark of that third quarter. He gets the steal in the defensive end. Maxey runs it down the court, splits the defenders, and then slams in the face of Anthony Edwards to get that jam. Also, VJ Edgecombe, rest of the role players were great in this one. VJ dropped in 24 points, 6 of 7 from beyond the arc. Sixers will look to go home winners after this 3-game road trip, hopefully by beating the Indiana Pacers on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock.
And then to close things up, the Portland Trailblazers got a 92-77 win. I believe 92 points is the fewest points scored by a team in a winning effort in the NBA this entire season. The Suns finished with more turnovers than assists. I believe they have 19 turnovers and only 16 assists in this game. No Dylan Brooks, no Devin Booker, and really no offense for the Suns.
Yeah, that's a great response for Portland after giving them 157 points. So great response by them.
Yeah, and Denny Avdia played 1 minute in this game, had a back injury, and could not play anymore. We will have to continue to monitor that situation. But that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On NBA Game Night, the show where we talk about every single game every single night. So make sure if you're watching on YouTube as we get out of here, please do us a favor. Hit the thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And we will be back tomorrow talking about every NBA game there is.